Well, good evening. Welcome to the Geordie Show. Myself, Win, the mighty Win, and our Andy Bell in the background. We may be joined with a few others as the session goes on, but until that time, I know we're half time in the Euro, so I'm sure there'll be people still watching the Euros. We'll keep you up to date. I'm sure we will as the time goes on between the Belgies and the Turks. But apart from, I mean, we've got lots to talk about. I mean, it's just been rife today with what's out there in Rumourville. We know some of it's true, some of it we're not so sure of, but we'll go through quite a lot. A little bit of housework before we go any further. Thanks to all the mods in the background for all your work. That's obviously a lot of it's unseen. So heads up to you guys out there. And obviously, if you like what you see, don't forget to hit the like button. Ring the bell for any future tags that we get on board with. Because again, me and Win will probably be jumping on as and when we hear something in the news channels. So please ring the bell. And from that, if you want to follow us, have a look across the platforms. We're across all platforms, and of course, have a look at our webpage, NUFC Talk TV. If you want to go the extra further mile, please join, become a member. Becoming a member just gets you every chance of winning some goodies. So today we've heard the news, and again, there's going to be a lot of people out there that say nay, and there's going to be a lot of people out there that say yay. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, it seems to be really hotting up now. There's rumour it's between 18 and 20 million valuation. There's rumours, again, we don't know how true they are, that obviously Everton had their eyes on Minte, and there could be some deal linked in with that. But before I get into any of these stats and we go from there, I was just going to go across and obviously let Win come in and just have an opinion, if you like, see what you feel and how you guys feel about the news that's coming out the channels about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Go on, Win. Give me
Well,
your
it's
thoughts.
certainly created some debate. It's certainly created some debate on the forum, hasn't it? The definites, the nevers, the in betweens, if he's
I mean, in all honesty, you could do an
coming
actual program
to
just on
be
this one
second striker,
one subject. Yeah,
it
yeah,
all it all de- it all depends on his fitness.
of course.
To be fair, he was fit enough last season. It was a freak cheek injury
Yeah, yeah.
that put him out last season. Otherwise, and then he only missed 6 games. He just wasn't picked for them. Now, if Everton aren't
Yeah, yeah.
picking him,
You're freezing up, Win. We're losing you, buddy.
what he was under Ancelotti, which is the only real decent manager. Am I there?
Yeah, you keep
got me now?
breaking in and breaking out, mate. Yeah, you're back with us now.
You
I don't know
not
whether
think
it's
he's
because you've got one or two
All right.
more things open up, matey. Go on, I'll
Yeah,
go over
what I'm
across
saying
to
is
Andy Bell if you
the
want to
one.
close one or two things out. I
Right,
can't hear you, Win.
I'll
You're
go out and
breaking up,
come back in.
matey.
Do you not think his
Go on, Andy.
underlying fitness was hidden a little bit, lads? The fact that he couldn't play more than 75 minutes a game.
Yeah, I mean, buddy, if I'm honest with you, like I said, it's like politics, this, isn't it now? You're going to have the pros and you're going to have the againsts. Everybody's going to come in with an opinion. Everybody's going to have, an idea. I mean, just while we're talking about it, we'll go back on a few seasons, and I'm going to credit the mag on this because they've done some background work, and I've been reading their stuff over the last day or two. He's got 12 months left on his contract, so they're probably going to be looking somewhere in the region of 18 to 20 mil. Season 2021, which was again his pinnacle year, 29 goals. 21-22, 15 goals. 22-23, 15 goals. 23-24, 7 goals. Now, that was with 38 appearances, so obviously some as sub. But he's Jamie. Hi, Jamie. The way I look at it now is the fact that you're absolutely right. I think everybody's going to be questioning whether this lad's going to stay and remain fit. He's obviously proven last year that he's back to somewhere on the fitness scale, because he had 38 appearances. Yeah, okay, some were off the suppers bench. But obviously, I think maybe he's got over that hurdle now. And now what he's got to try and do is find his finishing touch, which we saw at 2021 when he obviously got his 11 England caps. You know, he wasn't capped for not producing any finishing. He proves the type of player that he is. He's a. I mean, let's for instance, if you look at the top clubs with second string strikers, as I call it, try saying that when you've had a few. City have got Alvarez, Arsenal Jesus, Liverpool have got Jota. Now, obviously, they're a different type of playing style because they're more possession based rather than us to play with a typical number 9 that stays on the shoulder, you know, a little bit robust, a little bit strong, good in the air, and wants to literally get involved. Somebody who likes to come deep, somebody who likes to hold play up. So what I did, and I don't know whether anybody else has done, I actually looked at Dominic Calvert-Lewin, his stats, literally compared to Wilson. And it mirrors virtually everything that Wilson does. So I can understand the interest from Eddie Howe to go and have a look at him. The question mark will be, is he still made of glass?
Yeah.
So Win, carry on with your point, mate, if you're back there.
Yeah, what I was saying was it's opened up a can of worms in the forum, you know, those against, those for, those sort of on the fence. And it boils down to fitness. And I think it also, with Lewin, for me, he proved under the one season he had with what I would consider a proper manager, Ancelotti, he produced the goods because Ancelotti knew how to use him. Now, interesting what you were saying there about us wanting the centre forward who's high up the pitch, good in the air, because that's not what Isak is. It's what Callum Wilson is, but it's not what Isak is. Isak is the opposite. Isak is very much, get the ball much deeper and come on. He's not very good in the air at all, Isak.
No.
Which is why I think we don't pump crosses into the box.
He's goal
That's
at
why
Wilson
we always
disagree
get
with
these little triangles on the right-hand side of the pitch, trying to play the ball and get the ball to his feet as opposed to in the air.
Mm. Yeah.
So they're two different types of striker. I would personally like to see we play with two up front, but that'll depend on what.
What's that? Going as a
Whether
number
we
10
get
as well, do you mean? Like dropping
right
Isak
winger.
back?
But listen, as far as I'm concerned, it's good. If he's good enough already, he's good enough for me. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
If any things he'll be able to do something. What was that? Sorry, Jamie.
I said that's the bottom line. I was agreeing with you. You've got to be realistic about the circumstances, haven't you? I think a lot of the time people don't have joined up thinking. So if anyone's saying you don't want Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I would say to them, okay, let's put you in charge. So Eddie Howe comes to you and says, I want Calvert-Lewin because I think you'll be happy coming into the squad with Isak as the main man. We can get him for less than 20 million. He's proven in the Premier League. And our opinion, based on the scouting, is that he's over the injury record. And if you say, no, he's too injury prone, he doesn't score enough goals, Eddie Howe should turn around and go, right, who will we buy instead? And two answers to that are either keep Callum Wilson, which could lead to what's happened this season if has similar injury issues, but I get that point of view, although Calvert-Lewin's 5 years younger, or buy somebody else. And I'd like to know, I think people, if you say, I don't want Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you need to follow that thought up and join up to another thought, which is we should sign X instead. And X isn't Benjamin Sesko because we cannot afford him with PSR and he's got choices in the Champions League. You know, it's not Lionel Messi because he's pushing 40 and he plays in America. So if we're saying like Eddie, you're wrong, we don't want Dominic Calvert-Lewin, what's the alternative?
Well, you're bang on because what you've got to add on to that is where you're guaranteed to spend 20 million-ish and get the amount of goals that Calvert-Lewin's getting in the Premier League. We know if he stays fit, if you play to his strengths, he'll not only score goals, he'll bring others in to play. I think that's another thing. The only thing I worry about Calvert-Lewin is if Isak gets a bad injury, for God forbid, and let's say Wilson does leave or Wilson even does stay, you are then depending on one of them to play at least 2 games a week, or at least majority of the minutes a week, which history has told us that over the last few years that neither
Well,
of them
actually, the thing is,
do.
this season we'll not be playing 2 games a week.
But we will. If we go deep in the Carling Cup and the FA Cup, there's going to be times where you have 3 games in 12 days. There's going to be periods, easy.
It's going to be more manageable than last year.
4 games in 15 days. So
the thing with last year was it was the standard of the games as well. You couldn't have arrested anybody for any of those Champions League games. You couldn't have arrested anybody for any of those League Cup games because we kept getting, monster sides. You'd hope that it's something where you can rotate a bit more. I guess there's another question if you do get Calvert-Lewin, do you also bring in somebody else who's a very junior attacker?
That would be my option. And you've got to have youth on your side to the likelihood is youth players do get injured less often. There's normally a little bit later on. I just worry, can we depend on Calvert-Lewin? Can you hang your hat on him if Isak's out for any period of time? And I'm not sure. I know I can on his ability if he's fully fit, but we haven't seen a great deal of that over the last 4 years. I hope that if we do sign him, we come back to this comment in a year's time and go, Andy, you were bang out of order there, you were wrong. But these are the things that the owners are going to be asking as well.
Yeah, lots of people are asking. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we know in our current financial situation, we're not going to get 2 elite players. It's just impossible. We've got one, in my eyes. We're not going to get a second one. Well, not one that's going to sit on the bench. So I mean, we've already got one at the club who obviously wants more playtime, and that's why he's questioning whether he should still be with us and wanting away. So on that score, I think Eddie is quite right and correct to go search for another one that fits Wilson's mould, because what we've seen with Wilson, when Wilson comes on as that super sub, he can create something. It's something different. Now with obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin, what you've also got there is the aerial ability, Yeah. And if you look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and I'm going to put a little curveball in here, because we all know that Eddie Howe loves variation type player. Now, if anybody wants to go and have a quick look at his Dominic Calvert-Lewin's heat map, you'll actually see him covering virtually the whole of the pitch. He's a good defender. He's very good. That's the one thing that he dominates Wilson on, actually, is his defensive attributes. But if you have a look, his main area of concern, where he likes to run from, is a little bit from the right-hand wing. Now, is Eddie Howe thinking that we could go down the lines as, if we need to, bring him on the right side? Question for you.
Could do. Definitely. He's probably got one of the best leaps in the football.
Certainly Isak's better on the left.
Yeah, that's true. If you had the both of them on and someone had to pull out, you'd probably go with that, wouldn't you? But I guess, we need options, don't we? If you had certain injuries, if you had, whoever's your main pick on the right wing was out injured, and then you're down to, Murphy and go if Almiron's still here, which I doubt.
For me, striker was the number one position. Everybody's going on about right winger and all that, but for me, it was definitely striker, because if anything happens to Isak, we are cattled. If we're going to get rid of Wilson. It could be. I mean, who knows? Wilson could go a season uninjured, and if he did, you'd be kicking yourself if he went somewhere else and put a full season in, because we know for a fact that Wilson will get you goals if he plays.
So we're just going to, before we go on to that, then, because you've just moved on to another. Hold on, Win. Just as you've said there, because there's lots of people in the chat now that are obviously going to be asking the questions. Tuna, why get one sick note? you're going to sell for 20 million to replace another sick note worth 20 million. Well, this is the gamble, isn't it? I look at what West Ham apparently, now again, I haven't had this as confirmation. There's a lot of ITKs out there that are throwing things around, but West Ham apparently have come in for Wilson at 26 million.
Well, that's good money. That is
What's
good money.
out there in the media. So again, that figure could be complete nonsense. I'm not saying it's knowledgeable, because, like I say, there's so many people out there that just want to get likes and views. So, but for 26 million, you'd take it, wouldn't you? Or is that just me?
I think you've got to. It's the age profile. A lot of people aren't thinking of that. Isn't Wilson 33 soon?
34 next.
I think coming up 33.
And Calvert-Lewin's 27. So if Howe thinks Calvert-Lewin can be as good a player as Wilson, and then you've got the recency thing as well. Wilson missed a lot of time last season, and I think you were seeing before Calvert-Lewin played 30 odd games. So, you know, if that repeats itself next season, then and we've got 20, we've made a profit by swapping them out and gained a striker that's 5 years younger, it could work out very well. But unfortunately, you're dead right, it's a gamble. But that's the position we're in. We've got to gamble.
It's a gamble where you've got at least maybe 5 seasons to get it right at some point, though. With Callum, you haven't got that luxury. He's at the age.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we say that, I mean, he's an absolute. I mean, look, if you look at him, he can clearly, when he's fit, if he's got one injured body part, he's clearly working on other body parts. He's a specimen, isn't he? Let's be honest. But, but when you're 32, your time. Sorry, go on, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and also it takes longer for your body to heal. We've noticed that with his pectoral injury. And if you remember, when we really needed him over those last 4 games, he wasn't there, was he? He wasn't available. Just when you needed him the most. And that's the one thing. I mean, Beer Viking obviously has come back with serial injuries, diminishing returns. He will be used sparingly to preserve Isaac for the big moments. And I totally agree with that. But I still don't want us just to go out there and buy anybody. I want somebody to be able to change the game the way the likes of Wilson does. And that's what made me think about going and having a look at him directly compared to Wilson. And it is literally a mirror image apart from the defensive attributes, where Dominic Calvert-Lewin is much more, with his aerial ability, much more of a force in the defensive third.
On that comment, anybody agree? Manny Abraham, if he was available for that type of money, he'd be ahead of Calvert-Lewin. That's just my opinion, because I think I mean, you look at Chelsea's last goal-scoring strikers without penalties included. He's the last person to get over 15 Premier League goals in open play for Chelsea. He's went to Roma. He's obviously
Is he still at Roma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a bad injury beginning of last season. He only just started coming back into the side towards the end of the season. But they've got Dybala and
ACL, wasn't it? Didn't he do his ACL? He did his ACL, didn't he?
Yeah. So again, now someone would say, well, if you're going to get rid of Callum Wilson, who's done both the ACLs, or he's done one twice, I think he's done both. I remember his first season in Premier League, he started off on like a house on fire after his ACL. Or you're then going to swap him for another one that's just done one. So, but you're spending £20 million. We're having to box clever here. How do you get that guaranteed goals for £20 million in the Premier League? You go for players that have played in the Premier League. Or you take a gamble on someone younger abroad like a Sesko and pay 60 million quid.
That's the thing, isn't it? You know, we all want that elite right winger. And, you know, I mean, again, we've got another guy who's coming into the frame and we'll talk more about. But now Elise has obviously decided to go to Munich. We're now talking about Neto. Now, Neto's not going to come for anything less than 60 million pounds. So, but again, that's another rumour that we're going to come on to in a minute. There is absolutely shed loads of. Let me just read this one out because this is Kenny W. If Howe's training cost us all our injuries last season, it'll kill Calvert-Lewin. Now, again, everybody was blaming Eddie Howe for obviously his very military style of training, which was crocking the players. I don't think it was just obviously Eddie Howe's way of training. I think it was a problem across the board where players aren't, over years, haven't been up to that task, and all of a sudden you're asking them to do different things. Having players unavailable because of, injuries that was nothing to do with training. It was injuries during the game. Joe Linton. And then what you then get is continuity of playing time, muscle tiredness, and that's when you start getting muscle injuries. And we've seen that progressively over the season. So I can't really just blame Eddie Howe on that. But there's obviously that. Is Calvert-Lewin going to be up to the task of Eddie's training?
Yeah, case of Bruno came in. Sorry, go on, Jimmy.
Well, if he's not, go on, Jimmy.
I was just saying, it's a good point.
All I'm
something
saying
that I've never
is,
thought of, but it's true, isn't it?
If Calvert-Lewin isn't up to Eddie's training, that'll be apparent very, very early on. Not taking injury to sort that out. But like I say, I think I'm hopeful, but it is just hope, obviously. I'm hopeful that DCL might be over his injuries, because he went virtually all last season until he got smashed in the cheek.
Yeah.
Which is, that's not an injury that's down to training or, that's just something that happens, freak injury. So if he's over his injuries, it's a question of, exactly as Jamie said, if you don't want him, who do you want that you can reasonably expect to get?
Pedro,
who's going to be
Brighton.
happy to come to the tune? Who?
Pedro, Brighton.
Well, what they've just signed him, Yeah, but
They signed him last season for 30 million quid.
They're not going to let.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and he did well for Brighton, so they're not going to let him go for 30 million. Brighton don't need the money.
Do they not want Wilson? Ask the question. Brighton, would you like Wilson and 15 million quid?
The question is, who would? The question is, who would take Wilson? Who would take?
But if West Ham's willing to take him, you'd think Brighton. I think Pedro would be an ideal signing. He's constantly fit. He's got potential. He got 22 goals in all competitions last season, something like that. He scored goals. We were interested in previously as well.
So he's picked a good point up here, because this is one thing I was going to come before we obviously look at the reverse, because obviously there's every opportunity of one coming in and one going out under the same deal that we'll hit on. Alan Thompson's obviously said that if DCL come with a younger up-and-coming striker, then fine. But we cannot have just two strikers again, simples. And that's something that I actually agree with. But again...
Me too.
I think what we've got to be careful of is he's falling into that pit of putting money into something that's for the future. I think what we need to do at the moment is cover all of the main areas, like the right wing, another right-sided defender, before we even contemplate on a third striker. And who's not to say that somebody out the youth team could not come up if they are looking to bring in a half-decent
I don't think that's an option. I think you do. If you look at the under-21 season last year, like, none of them were stepping up as Lewis Miley did when we were in the injury crisis. I think they came second bottom of the league. A lot of them have been released. They got beat, 8-0 off the A-League All-Stars. There's not an option coming through, I don't think. Not in that position.
Not thinking Anthony Gordon or Harvey Barnes could fill that role. Harvey Barnes.
Both of you. Go on.
So Harvey Barnes can play as a striker. Anthony Gordon can play as a striker. That's their argument they're going to have. You've got two first-choice strikers and then two backups.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying to you is, there's nothing stopping them now going and having a look like they are doing at some of these better young players and nurturing them in the youth side for that potential. Again, another 12 months, isn't it? We've got another couple of windows to go through yet. And I think what we've got to be careful of is not bombarding one position with all our money and then be still weak in certain areas.
I'll give you an example from the past. Isaiah Perez. Jose Perez was bought as a youngster who had potential for the future. It was one of them where when he signed, I remember thinking, oh, we'll probably never see him. And within a matter of weeks, I think he was in the first team, signed with little sort of expectation for something like 1.5 million. Maybe that's the sort of signing we need to look, but I agree. You need to if we're getting Calvert-Lewin, great, reinforce your other positions, and then see if there's someone we can add to the squad from like the Championship or something. There's a lad I'll mention a lot is a guy called Morgan Whittaker who plays for Plymouth, I think he got 20 goals in the Championship last year. He can also play on the right-hand side of attack. And I think that's the calibre of player where you could get him for a few million and he'd be happy to be a fringe player at somewhere like Newcastle. Now, I'm not saying he would fit our style of player. We're interested in him. But that's the sort of player, I think, as a third striker. Also, as I've said, we don't have that kind of schedule this year where the same team has to play in all the Champions League games, where the same team has to play in the League Cup. And I think that's where the injuries came from. We got a few and they just snowballed because you had same blokes playing twice, 3 times a week. So maybe we can cope with 2 strikers and having the Gordon as the third option or Barnes or whoever, or Linton. If we get more luck with injuries, it's a different season, you know. I think that's the bottom line, isn't it?
I just don't want to buy mediocrity anymore. I think we've got limited money to spend. So for me, what we spend should go straight into that first team and knock somebody in the first team onto the bench. I think if we're not doing that, we're going backwards. And I don't know. My real take on DCL is I don't think he is going to be a player who can take us forward. Now, okay, it's only going to cost 20 million. So that's a factor that you have to take into consideration.
Yeah.
But I would far rather spend, say, 50 million on Solanke or 60 million on Solanke than 20 million on Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah. There's somebody in the chat has just said exactly the same.
One thing I will say is Whittaker, though. I agree with everything he's just said there. The only thing is, I think when you're seeing a few million, Whittaker's got eyes on him from everyone. He's probably, if you were to ask a lot of the Championship players, the best player they played against last season. He could be a little bit like a QPR signing for Palace. You know, Eze going from, he gives off vibes that he could be that good. I get what Wynn's saying. We want to go and get someone guaranteed, but you have got to take these gambles at times. You've got to try, especially when the younger players. I mean, if because it's a Championship, you might be looking at the high 20s rather than if he was like playing like this in the Premier League. Is £20-odd million really that much of a huge gamble in a sense that you're still going to have a young English player there and you've got time to work with him? It doesn't have to come on and improve us immediately.
Yeah, but just going on what Foxy said here, if DCL was a free or under 10 million with a standard wage, it'd be okay with the deal, but it's rumoured price with the expected wages, at the poor form, injury record, difficult to be positive about. And that is it. I get it. I understand that. And that's where we all are to a degree.
Yeah.
There's a lot of question marks. But, you know, say if Eddie bangs out a deal of £15 million up front and the rest in instalments as add-ons, out of so many appearances, so many goals, etc., would that be not a deal to be looking at rather than banging out 20 million if that's the figure?
That's a good price in these current market.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at it. It hadn't crossed my mind before, but I just wondered with Jamie saying that all the other players were saying what a good player Whittaker was. I've just brought up the AFL team of the season. And they've got Schmodic from, I think that's how you pronounce it, from Blackburn.
Yeah.
You'll remember him when we played Blackburn because you were there, weren't you, Jimmy?
Yeah.
I was there for a long time.
They've got Somerville, Schmodic and Whittaker behind Rutter of Leeds.
God, what a Leeds.
Now Leeds want Sean Longstaff, apparently.
That seems to have died a little bit down, that one, to be fair.
How
So,
old's Rutter?
going on from... Go on, mate.
Go on, Andy.
How old is Rutter? Because I know Leeds paid big money for him that year when they went down, didn't they? They paid nearly close to 30 million for him, I think. If he's still young, but again, it's another one of them, isn't it? What would you rather, a player that you know can play at that level, or a player that you're not sure?
Well, that's the gamble, isn't it? And I think that's why Eddie's going down this line, because he's not going to be a main striker all of the time. Yes, he's going to come into games, but like you've already alluded to, we have got other players that can play up front as well. So it doesn't always have to be the standard two. You know, there's going to be protection for DCL when he comes, because, like you say, Gordon can play there. Harvey Barnes can go out left, and I think that's what he's looking at. He's looking at an interchangeable side, isn't he? Where everybody's going to be able to cover so many positions. I'm going to reverse it.
28 million euros Leeds paid for Rutter.
So that's at about 24 quid.
In January 23.
24 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
So now,
Gary, sorry to interrupt you. Joe Linton could play up top. Well, not very well from past experiences, but if we're desperate.
The only thing with Big Joe, and we've seen it for years, is the fact that he can't get round a player. He can't beat a player. He hasn't got that burst of pace. He's strong. He's great with his back to goal. He can bring in other players, and I think he could be useful in that position. But for me as a 9, no. We've tried it. We've tested it. And it failed, didn't it?
Doesn't work.
It failed miserably.
Said,
let's reverse this. Yeah, exactly.
You'd do for 20 minutes if you were defending a lead, I think. That sort of thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. To hold the ball up, absolutely. You could throw him up there. But obviously, as part of this deal, Everton now have made an inquiry about Minte, which they did a couple of weeks ago, didn't they? And then that literally died down. But obviously now, with this deal of DCL, do you think there's going to be any other chance of Minte going the other way for 40 million or somewhere in the like, with a deal struck between the two players?
Well, if I could get 40 million from Minte, I would sell him tomorrow.
Okay.
It's tricky, isn't it?
Just purely on because of the financial constraints we've got at the minute, that 40 million you get off Minte could enable you to buy both an elite striker and an elite right winger, and go somewhere towards another right-footed centre back.
I mean, you
wouldn't, Jamie.
I mean, I don't know. It's tricky because, like, again, we're back to that word again, the gamble. I think this time next year, if Mint is turned out to be a star of the Premier League and he's in an Everton shirt, we'll be kicking ourselves. If he turns out to be underwhelming and we've taken the pants down for £40 million, the same we give them for Anthony Gordon, then we'll be laughing. I would hope now we're better negotiators. I wonder if we could put some sort of buyback clause in saying, yeah, we'll sell him to you for this, but you know,
the only thing about buyback clauses. The only thing about buyback clauses is that buyback clauses inevitably reduce the amount that you get for the player. You know, if you want to put in a very reasonable buyback clause, then that
it's like an each way bet, innit? So, but is that a sensible solution? I've just got the feeling that PSR is going to lose. You know what I mean? In the next couple of years, between all the lawsuits, we've just got to toe the line this season, possibly next summer, and PSR it's on borrowed time, it's on limited time. Yeah. And there's going to come a point where the plug gets pulled on that and we can buy who we want.
Yeah.
So,
just on that point, Jamie, I think it's remarkable that because Man City's new lawsuit finished on Friday, and there has not been a peep
in the news
from anywhere as to what went on.
There must be some admin or something going on.
How they've managed to keep the lid on that And
Yeah.
exactly, Jamie. That's what I think. I think the fact that they've kept the lid on it, they've fended off all the journalists asking all the questions. There's got to be, because there's no. It was going to be a fortnight. It was going to be dealt with. They say that it's been completed. There's no appeal. So why haven't the findings been released?
The gallery, do you think, or maybe the media's not been allowed in yet,
There was
and
nobody
everyone's
allowed
got
in. It was in camera.
non-disclosures?
It was in camera. There was no one allowed in.
There might be some sort of legal process that needs to be followed before the details can be announced, or maybe it's going to
But
spill
you know
over to
yourself
Monday or
when
something. But yeah,
you know yourself when these things happen, they invariably they get leaked.
No.
And the fact that nothing, absolutely nothing, has come out from either camp, either the FA or Man City, I find it weird myself.
Thing is, though, what we've got to look at is whatever happens in this courtroom could have an absolute huge effect on another 19 teams. So they will be making sure straight away that, because if a club gets wind of a thing that gets pulled up and then the FA go, oh shit, we didn't think of that, we're all going to have to change the rules. If clubs get wind of that, they'll jump on it straight away, and they'll not leak any into the press, and they'll be jumping on it. So that if they see a loophole somewhere, they're not going to want it advertised because they can take advantage of it. So I think there's no surprise that there's no press in there, mate, because whatever's going on there is going to be big effort on to make sure either you take advantage of it or you find out as much as you can about it to make sure that you don't break the rules, because there's all sorts going on there. It's not just PSR, it's payments to people behind closed doors. It's all sorts.
Yeah, Kenny's just said it's going to be within the next 7 days, apparently, that you hear the findings of that. So that's going to be interesting. So
going to be an interesting week.
It will be very much an interesting week. I'm going to take it then across the board that we are still probably 50-50 on yay or nay. There's still doubts.
Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, there's still doubts. But so would you completely say or rule out a player swap with money for Minto? That's the question.
No, we haven't had a look at him.
I tell you what, it's a year for me.
I would take 40 million for Minty off anybody. That's a separate issue to the Calvert-Lewin.
If a team's not going to pay 40 million for Minty win, why on the club going, hang on a second, if he's never made a Premier League appearance, he's clearly been watching the Dutch league, see the individual brilliance that he's got, why don't we go, right, let's make space for him, bring someone in, and he can be our backup. Let's get rid of Miggy, let's get rid of Rich. Obviously Rich is gone. You've got, without taking a look at him, it would be silly to take any amount of money for him. Say going to buy a car, not having a look at it, and it's silly. You've got to have a look at him beforehand, because if you sell him and he doesn't make a first team appearance and he comes out to be a world beater, the fans are going to go, what are you doing?
Well, yeah, of course they will. Well, we know that's obvious. But what I'm saying is, I've been a gambler all my life, right? And a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So the number of times I've cashed out when everybody says, don't cash out. And if you're cashing out, you're getting something for nothing. Guaranteed. And if you let it rest, yes, you could. There could be.
You sound just like my wife when she dragged us away from the table at New York and Las Vegas when I was on a roll. I'd have been driving a solid gold Bentley to work. I wouldn't have been going to work. I'd have been going out to Spanish City, just have a coffee and look at the sea every day.
Or you'd be washing the pots in the casino when you blew the lot.
Apparently, I mean, we go back to obviously what Kenny W. He's just saying here about June the 30th. We have to still face the consequences. Again, I don't know exactly how true it is because none of us have seen figures.
Yeah.
But going on what Darren Eales has said in the past, the only way we're going to move forward in this current state is by selling to purchase. And it doesn't matter who
you don't know what that is. That could be Ryan Fraser. Could be Ryan Fraser, could be enough, could be
Yeah, absolutely.
Almiron to Saudi Arabia. We'll have to see what happens over the next 7 days. But
Yeah.
from a Calvert-Lewin point of view, I'm going to say I'm going to say yes, have him, and I'll tell you for why. Because Eddie Howe wants him. And at the end of the day, and you're saying, like, you know, we don't know if Minty will be a hit or what. They'll know. They'll have been watching him play for Feyenoord. They'll have a dossier, they'll have reports, they'll have an idea how he'd fit into that squad. And it's potentially they've judged it that he's either not ready or it's just never going to work. They do that homework, and you've got to say they've not put a foot wrong in terms of the signings that have come in. You could say, well, maybe should have reinforced in different areas last year, you know, but in terms of everyone, if anyone could name a bad buy, Chris Wood wasn't a bad buy. I'd defend that. When Anthony Gordon signed, plenty of people had plenty to say like they did now. You know, he's not worth 40 million, you know, he's too lightweight, all this. Look at him now. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin's not a panic buy. That's another thing that makes us think Howe's been after him for years. He's been talked about for transfer window after transfer window. When he gets his eye on someone like he did with Botman, like he did with Gordon, it works. And I think he's earned that, because it's all very well us coming up with these names. If maybe he's looked at those names and said he wouldn't fit the system. He's drinking 3 nights a week, you know. They do that homework and they do it well, and that's why we've gone from the bottom of the league to where we are. We had problems last year, but that's maybe part of the success. And I think Eddie Howe wants him. They'll have done their homework, seen he'll fit in, and I would bet on it working if it does come off. So I'm a yeah.
Okay, brilliant. I agree, mate. I'm totally agree with you.
For the same reason.
I'm just going to finish this.
If he's good enough for Eddie, he's good enough for me. But the other thing about this 30th of June, by the way, I don't think we have been as frugal as we've been in the transfer market since the takeover for somehow to have gone over these limits. I just think the people behind the scenes now are far too shrewd to have allowed that to happen. So I mean, I've seen all of the supposed figures. Nobody sees the figures until the books are published on the 30th.
Correct, we don't know.
And you've got all of these rumours saying we are, you know, that there's about 12 clubs who are over budget to varying degrees. And I do not think the powers that be behind us right now would have allowed that to happen.
I agree. I totally agree, matey. I mean, Alan Thompson here, he's put down 99% of Everton's would have the fans would have driven DCL up to Newcastle. And
well, 100% of them would have driven Gordon up.
Well,
yeah. I mean, to be fair, I had a look on their
I'll tell you what,
fan pages today, and they're all devastated from what I could see. They're all saying it's a negative way to go
forward. They can try to Plymouth and wherever else in the Championship next year if they do sell him, because every season I've seen, he comes back from injury and his goals keep them up, including a few against us.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thought. I'm not saying it's negative. All I'm saying to you is you've also got to remember that for the last 3 seasons, he's been in really negative sides that have changed the managers, that have been fighting relegation. He's not really had the service. As his injuries come off him trying to overplay and trying to do too much, trying to cover too much ground. Because we often see that with athletes when they try and put that extra 5-10% in, it can cause, problems to their own body. So there's a number of question marks to this lad, and I understand that.
Point back, Gary, because he had James Rodriguez setting him up for goals, didn't he? James Rodriguez and Sigurdsson in court. He didn't have Dwight McNeil and who else really?
How many times have we seen us when we were in relegation fighting that it doesn't matter how hard you try to get a goal, you can't nick one from anywhere?
Portland.
Yeah.
And
that's another criticism. That's another criticism that keeps coming out from the Newcastle fan base. Why we're buying from a relegated club? Why we're buying Tino Livramento from a relegated club? Why we're buying Nick Pope from a relegated club? What a pair of players they've turned into. That was something the fan base said. We shouldn't be shopping here. They've not got relegated, Everton, somehow, the last few years, but it's the same dog, isn't it? They've always been in and about it.
Yeah.
So
That was it.
you
When
know,
we had that very tenuous link with Pickford, like all the fans were up in arms, up in arms, up in arms.
Can
But,
you imagine?
with little arms.
Can you imagine Everton without Pickford?
Oh my!
Second most clean sheets in the league last season, didn't he?
It's
something
just
like that,
phenomenal
yeah.
stats for the team he's in.
Absolutely, it's phenomenal. That's why. I mean, I think he was.
But anyway,
looked at
keep off
as a potential.
goalkeepers because
Yeah.
Dubravka's
But
not
I don't want to talk
favourable.
about Dubravka flinch there now.
Kenny Doubles just asked a question.
I
Off
thought
the
I'd
top,
got out of
does
that
anybody know? Hold on, guys. Does anybody know Dick Appleby from Cambois?
That name rings a bell. Yes, that name does ring a
Camas.
bell.
Who's that?
Does
Well,
he play pool, Kenny?
That's your neck of the woods, that Andy, isn't it?
I'm from Blythe originally, but I've moved a bit near Bedlington next to Camas. That name rings a bell. I think I might know him from the pool scene. Possibly.
Don't know.
I can't put his face to his name, but the name rings a bell.
Okay, so
Quasimodo.
we spent, yeah, we've spent
Not
47
the one with
minutes.
his
on that
face.
one.
And anyhow, this isn't
That's what I
Friends
said, I mean, we could talk
Reunited. This
about
is
it
a
forever.
professional podcast.
Correct.
Is it?
So, what's your guys' thoughts on this next issue then, or the next Rumourville? Neto for Anderson swap for Wolves,
Oh,
or Max
Well,
Kilman.
I heard
centre-back,
Kilman, yeah.
Wolves. Yeah. So there's been two links going out there. Again, a lot of Rumourvilles going out. And again, I don't know how true this is because they're not great sources. But the first one I heard was Neto for Anderson, and straight away though, if there's no truth behind it, I did hear straight back from other sources that Elliot Anderson wants to stay at Newcastle. Literally straight away. There was literally about 10 minutes between the post going out there to Elliot Anderson saying he wants to stay at Newcastle and potentially get another contract negotiated. But obviously, then you've got the Max Kilman, which come just after, which obviously is a name that's out there. He's their captain, if I believe. Is that right?
yeah.
Wolves, Max Kilman, decent player. But then they've looked for cash as well as Anderson.
I know, yeah. That's
cash going the other way. I mean, where do you guys stand on this? Do you think it's bad for us getting rid of Anderson at this present moment in time? I do.
yeah. I'd rather get rid of Longstaff.
I think he's got potential. I really do.
I think he's got a lot of potential.
position.
But that's all it is at the minute.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah.
Let's just have a look at this here a minute.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I know Elliot Anderson has still got a lot of critics and he's still got a hell of a lot to learn out there. He's still very much a youngster. We've changed positions. He left-hand side now to midfield, and he still gets found out a couple of times when he's trying to hold the ball up and produce. But the lad is always trying to do the half turn and play the ball progressively forward. He's very rarely negative, which you've got a lot to see about him. And if I'm honest with you, and I'm going to go completely off the cuff here, whenever I have more confidence in our midfield, especially last year when we had all the injuries, when Anderson was in the field, rather than Willock. Isn't that a strange one? Because my impression of Willock recently has gone completely downhill. I know he's been a good player for us. I'm not saying he's not been a good player, but when it comes to
he was not at all. Yeah, wasn't he?
Wilson. When you look at Willock's brilliant going forward, but he only goes forward. He gives you absolutely nothing coming back. And you can prove that he's very much like I'm out of position here, coming in a defensive third, where Anderson actually gives us a body that tries to get tackles in and tries to distribute the ball really well. So I'd be really upset if we lost Anderson. I wouldn't be as upset if that was for Willock. And I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I would definitely rather
come in on that one, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Go on,
Willock, I agree with you. He's fantastic when the game's open. Like we're playing free flowing football. He's he's so great in transitions, and let's be honest, there's no one can do some of the things in the middle of the pitch that he does. He can flick it around a player, go past one, run into the centre of the pitch, and we can really break lines. You're not going to really see that from Anderson. But over the 90 minutes, Elliot Anderson's going to tick more boxes, isn't he? I get what you're saying there, yeah.
If I was choosing one of the two, it would be Willock for me. But I don't think we'll get bids for Willock again because of his injuries. And we're talking about Neto here. I've got this is Neto's injuries.
Yeah.
You know, missed 19 games last season with hamstrings, 27 games the season before with an ankle injury, 52 games with a knee injury, and then various little knocks before that.
52?
So, 52 games in 2021.
297 days injured.
297 days he was injured with a knee injury.
That's an
That's
ACL.
very nearly an awful.
It's serious, isn't it? Again, somebody who suffers terribly with muscle strains. And again,
I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole.
No.
But this is the trouble. You see, anybody who plays on the right wing and plays like him, I'm going to wrap myself up now for right criticism. I know that, and I'm going to say, apart from Almiron, I'm going to put him into another bracket. But anybody who plays,
he's a Superman, Almiron, for the work and graft and sprints that he does, for to never get a hamstring is exceptional.
Well, I mean, you know, he's there's not much muscle to the lad.
No, there's not.
He's very slim and petite. So you're going to ask the question, like, you know, the likes of Gordon. Why doesn't Gordon really pull up with anything? Because he's always on the run. He's always pulling, you know, backwards and forwards, virtually the full length. And if you look at his yardage or his kilometres per game, it's phenomenal. So why do certain players don't get injuries, hamstring injuries? And again, there's nothing out there medically that you can actually pinpoint one specific thing, apart from muscle mass. You know, certain parts of the body that like legs with lots of muscle can tear and produce continuous injuries. Because it's only scar tissue that repairs back.
Is it not a thing, Gary, where like some of these lads get a bad injury when they're young, and it either affects the way they run or something like that, and then before you know it, it's just like they'll do the ACL and the hamstring and that leg will go, and then the calf will go, and it seems to dog them throughout their career. Michael Owen's the example that I'm thinking of.
The perfect person, as you've just said. You have a look at what Michael Owen did when he was a youngster before, you know, anybody else. He had played so many more games than any of his peers at a certain point. But what that did is it actually turned around to haunt him later on, especially when he come to us. And he was a shadow of his player. You know what I mean? And you're absolutely right. And I do think that's the reasons why Eddie wants to protect. It's gone out of my head now. Miley. He wants to protect Miley because he realises Miley's still growing. He's not 18 yet. His growth plates are still there. I mean, crikey, he's going to be 6'6" or something.
I reckon he's going to be 6'6", like.
Yeah, easy. I mean, he's a big lad. And, you know, what you've got to also understand is watching these players grow and trying to give them protection is because of those injuries that are going to come and start to overshadow his career in another few years' time when he's a player in the first team, hopefully ours, on a regular basis. So there's a lot of questions about why some get injuries and why some don't. Now, you know, I looked before. You know, when you start to break it all down, you know, as of yet, apart from, and I say this in the rudest term, connections. There's been nothing really concrete evidence about Neto. Max Kilman, yes, there was more of a backup towards Max Kilman, and obviously Anderson going the other way, and that's when, like I said, that's when the link to Anderson come out saying that he wasn't interested. But when it comes to right wingers, would you go abroad? Now I'm going to put a name into the hat here. I'm going to put a couple of names. Now, Kozia Dewberry has become a free agent. Arsenal has told them that he's leaving. He doesn't want a contract.
I read that.
He wants to go and seek game elsewhere. I know he's young, and I know he's very raw because he's played for their reserves a lot more than he's played actually out. Thoughts on Dewberry, just as a question mark. He said he doesn't want to go north, so I don't even think there's a chance. But just because he's a free agent, what do you think?
A couple of my mates who are into that sort of thing have described him as a football manager superstar. And that's apparently a pretty good thing to go on because Football Manager has such an extensive scouting network. That's true. That I've got the biggest scouting network in the world.
In the world,
and also wanted to keep him. They're not kicking him out. They offered him a contract extension, and he's after somewhere. So massive yes from me. I didn't know that thing you said about him not wanting to go north. I don't know. I say if anyone goes on like that, send Kevin Keegan round the house, me.
Love it.
Just send His Excellency Chair Girls. She can just say, do you know how many boxers I know? Yeah, you're not going to sign.
I think that the problem is, and we saw it with Hall, isn't it? The move north, away from your friends, family, at that tender young age of 19, or I think that's what how old he is. I don't know. Are you trying to get any details up of Dewberry at all, or are you just playing?
I wasn't, no, but I can do.
Okay, don't worry.
If I'm perfectly honest.
I mean, to be fair, and again, we go on these YouTube fans because if you go on YouTube, I mean, Jamie hit the nail on the head when he said about the way he plays on Football Manager, because obviously there's certain youngsters on there that everybody goes to buy before whenever they take over a team, and he's one of them names that apparently pings up around everywhere, saying that he's got a really good a lot of ability. I've had a look at him online. There's one or two clips of him playing reserve games online, and he looks decent. He looks really good. But again, we know what YouTube's like. YouTube can make you look an amazing player. So I don't take that as.
He's free as well.
Yeah.
How are you spelling? Is it Dewberry or Dewsbury?
Dewberry. D-U-B.
Is in Michael Dewberry.
Oh, Dewberry.
Yeah, Cozy Dewberry. I'm just going to have a quick look at these.
I was going to say any video would be welcome because this is news to me, and I pride myself on knowing these young kids. So you've educated me.
Gary, actually, I've had a thought. If you're thinking is signing Pedro Neto for the right wing, what about signing the gingerbread man? Because he's got canny pace and he looks less likely to be out injured than Pedro Neto. I think he's a bit more durable.
Oh, I do love it when Jamie comes on. He throws some Brahmas out there. There's another really talented player. I'm just waiting for Wynn before I throw this in, because we'll get Wynn to come up with another one. Who's
right
today?
Left winger attacking midfield.
He come out and said that he doesn't want to stay at the club and he wants to go out on loan. And there's talk, and again, I only heard about the talk in the background, that he would like to come and have a trial in the Premiership. And I'm sure everybody will go, "Oh, that's interesting," when I call his name. Now, hold on, I'm just going to mention Foxy here. Cozy Dewberry would be a first choice out of everyone mentioned recently. Absolute no-brainer. Similar style to Saka. There you go. Love that.
And there's a funny thing, you see, because Saka, you were talking about Michael Owen before. People don't realise how many games Saka's got in his legs.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Sooner or later, he has to start, making up for that.
Yeah.
It would be remarkable if he could continue injury free the way he has done for 6-7 seasons now, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Jens, welcome, buddy. I haven't seen this gentleman in the chat before. Jens Gartuten. Evening, guys. I think DCL can be useful. How we'll get him going? Maximum 20 million now. Yeah, that's what I said. I think it'll be up to 20 million, but I think the initial outlay will be somewhere in 15, 16 with add-ons.
His wages are really low.
Yeah, well, his wages are high, and that's what I said. If he wants to come to the club, he's going to have to start doing something about his wages, hasn't he? Because at the minute, he has been one of the main players at Everton. He comes to us and he's not a main player anymore. He's a squad player. And I think, like I
I
said,
think
his wages will
we're all
will
assuming. I think it's probably a safe assumption. If he comes in, Callum Wilson goes out, doesn't he? It's you're not going to have the
Callum-
two of them and Isaac.
No. I think if
It
I'm
would be
honest with you, I think
brilliant.
Callum Wilson, and again, I said this about the goalkeeper. We wouldn't be looking in these positions if there's not been some type of talk between player and manager. You've got two decent players that can play as second fiddle to the first choice. So why would we still be looking at these positions if there has been no talk amongst parties? So for me, Callum Wilson is out. The same as Dubs. I think he's going to be looking for a new club.
So
Both senior players.
Wages wise, that sort of cancels itself, doesn't it? Because hopefully you get Calvert-Lewin in for a bit less than Callum Wilson, who I think will be one of the top earners. Or, the same makes no difference. And, there's no argument about whether that's the wisest way to use it, but it won't increase the wage bill, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Why?
Yeah.
Because if I'm Calvert-Lewin, I'm not going for less than what Callum Wilson's getting paid.
Well, you might not
I've
want to
played for England. I've scored over 20 goals in the Premier League. I've done everything that Callum Wilson's got. I've got years in my favour. Why am I not getting it? I don't think he'd start on originally the amount, but every year would increase to the point where he's on beyond Callum Wilson. I think that's what worries me. I think he's going to be looking at nearly 100 a week, 5 million a year.
I wouldn't be paying him that, like.
No, that's why I've got doubts over it.
Probably a going rate for a striker now, Win.
Well, all I'm saying is, if he's walking in off the street to effectively sit on the bench for 100 grand a week, what are the kids who are on 70 and 80 grand a week going to be saying?
What about Matty Target? That's what Matty Target's doing.
I think
he's not going to get in the team now, is he?
That's slightly different. Slightly different.
You can top it up with goal bonuses, can't you? When you say 100 grand a week's probably sort of starting, playing, scoring. It's complex business. But I think, what I'm getting at is his wages would be covered by Wilson coming off the wage bill.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
I totally agree with what you're saying. We're not going to be overexerting myself 100 grand a week. We're just going to be kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. We're not saving anything. Yeah, and a longer contract as well.
I still didn't want to get rid of Wilson. I think he's a great player, and if only I know it's a massive if only, but everything we've talked about tonight, we've said it's a gamble, it's a gamble, it's a gamble.
Yeah.
I would be quite happy to gamble. All it's going to cost is 20 million plus his wages, so 25 million to keep him. For the season.
I think
and I think if he could stay fit, if we let him go, we know for a fact he's going to score goals wherever he goes.
Absolutely.
I think in the scenario where he does stay, you extend the contract, you give him a 1-year contract extension. I know that's taking him to a canny age, but it means you can potentially get money for him again in a year's time.
I would just I would kind of write off the money in the next year and say that for 25 million we've guaranteed ourselves 10 goals a season.
Yeah,
and those 10 goals could be very, very important.
Absolutely, but if he's made that choice and said, "Listen, I'm my last year of my contract, I'm second string, I want to play first team football." What choice have you got?
Of course, the West Ham link, I'm straight away thinking, it's because he wants to go and see his mate Antonio.
To take his place.
To take his place, aye.
Have you seen a podcast gone on, mate? We're just doing this in your living room now because I don't need to do it in my living room because I'm living with you. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, that could be.
But
I saw that, what Beer Vikings said just there. Wilson's put a bunch of his holiday photos up on Instagram. And the first photo is him walking out the door. Walking out the door to the villa, and there's sort of bright sunshine outside. And
is that one of those messages? Yeah, is it a subliminal message? You don't know, do you?
Oh, what's
wasn't any balls going?
Wilson doesn't want to say,
you know, if he wants to go, there's no point
Yeah.
in keeping him. But
No, exactly.
yeah, absolutely. But I still think he can do a job for us.
So listen, guys,
I think
before obviously everybody shouts on board that you know I'm making these rumours up. Cozier Dubry. I haven't seen any links. It was just me hearing that he wants out of Arsenal, and he's a
I
free
think that
agent.
there is links.
From what I've
There is
seen.
links to us.
You've seen links now, have you?
Yeah, I think we've been speaking about him for a couple of months. There's links going back to May and stuff like that. But
Right.
I did hear he's got options abroad and stuff, and we might not be
Yeah,
near
that's
the front of
absolutely
the
true.
queue. But
Yeah,
Gary, who's the second option? You left us on tender hooks a good few minutes ago.
Yeah, this is the one, guys. Xavi Simons for PSG has come out today, literally this evening, and said, "I don't want to play for PSG because obviously I'm sub." He's been out on loan. Obviously, he's in the Dutch first team. He was the one, I believe, who got offside by the English referees the other night. I wasn't very happy with it. Attacking midfield, right winger. Now, he has stated that he'd like to have a go abroad. That's what he said, and have a look at a different style of play to see how he'd go. Now, obviously, this would only be on loan, and there would obviously be some agreement between two clubs that would be wages, appearance fees, things like that. I wouldn't thought PSG would have been happy for them to still pay his wages if he's playing somebody else. So, what's your thought on this lad? Because
What are his wages out of interest? Because I was touting him last year's transfer market. I wanted him.
I think
I don't know much about him.
Relationship would have to improve, wouldn't it?
Does he sound like a bit of a wanker?
What's that, Jay?
Does he? I don't know much about him, but from what you're seeing there, it sounds like he might be a bit of a dickhead. You know, like saying, shouting the odds about where he's going to move and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a strong policy against that sort of thing. What age is he?
Yeah.
He's
21.
Yeah,
21. He's top. He's a top young player. Top young player.
If he's available on loan, that's a big plus.
With that,
and again, I've not heard any rumours. I'm not trying to spread rumours here, guys. I'm just saying, for me, it would be lovely. Now he's stated that for our guys to go in there and just question if he'd be happy to come to the Premiership, because I think he'd be great at us. I know, yes, there's every chance of being a hothead.
If he is a hothead, he said he's not back himself to deal with it. You know, you can't not every player in your squad's going to be the perfect professional. Your goal is going to get a couple of egos in there. If you put 25 men in a room, a couple of them are going to start thinking that they're bigger than the others. When you're playing a sport, it's inevitable. So he'd be perfect as well as just off 10. And he would be a really, really good player for us, I think.
Yeah, he'd be. Well, he was in a similar. I mean, they've just said there, Jamstasher was like he's saying he was a bit too small. He's probably the same type of frame as Almiron, isn't he?
Yeah,
probably a little bit taller. But I understand what he's saying there. But it's just strange, like I say, how these, you know, if you're patient enough, sometimes you can come up with a real good one. I mean, he played for Leipzig last year. Jamstasher was saying. So it'd be interesting to see what his stats were when he played for them. And like I say, I know he plays more of an attacking midfielder, but he does like to come off the right hand side as well.
I'm pretty sure he got in the Bundesliga player of the team of the season on the bench.
Yeah, possibly.
I'm pretty sure he got over 10 goals for Leipzig last season. I was watching the Bundesliga highlights often last season, and I think he had a few injury issues as well, but he's. Do you know what impresses me about him? The fact he can play wide, but he's not blessed with pace. He's quick over a few 5 to 10 yards, you know, that initial get around, turn somebody, but he's not going to knock the ball past someone like Kyle Walker does and run streaming past them. That's why I like him in the middle, because we haven't got anybody in the middle with that brain that's that fast. Other than Bruno, obviously, but he doesn't break far enough up to get the most out of it. So, yeah, he'd be you've tickled my fancy, like, Gary. I'll give you that.
Well, like I said, I do love to throw a couple of names in the hat. Like I say, there's no links to this guy whatsoever, but it just made me just think out loud, thinking, oh, now he said it publicly, and obviously PSG understand where he's coming from now. I mean, obviously he's at the Euros. It's going to be quite difficult to get anybody out there, agents wise, to discuss things with him. But I just think if you look at it from the aspect of him wanting to obviously, air himself in the Premiership from anything future, just try it out. We'd be the perfect team for him. I think we play that type of football that would suit his game. That's what I was saying. I was still unsure about Neto. He's a great player, but I just think there's probably too much behind there that would be like, say, injury wise, that would be problematic for me. That is all the information that I have got this evening. Go on.
I've been a bit nonplussed when you're on about PSG and Xavi Simons, because I'm sure when I was looking at him last season, he was playing for Leipzig.
He was on loan.
He was on loan. He was on loan there.
And he's on. Well, I'm on Capology now, and he's on 30 grand a week at Leipzig.
Yeah, because he was on loan there.
I had no idea. He's not on PSG's books. I was sort of. I thought I must be wrong, because there was nobody.
The link today come out of PSG.
He's definitely on loan.
The link today that I saw was from PSG.
I've got Xavi Simons on Capology now, and he's on 30 grand a week for Leipzig.
I wouldn't go out of bed for that.
And his contract expires 30th of June 24.
Yeah, so what's going to happen? Stuff's going to happen this next week, isn't it? We can speculate until the cows cometh home, but I think stuff's going to happen. Stuff's going to happen with that Man City court case. Someone's going to leave. We're going to have a dearly departed, I think, by this time next week from the squad. We'll get a Lloyd Kelly signing over the line, and then stuff might happen 1st of July. It's quite exciting.
Well, I honestly don't think much will happen until after the Euros.
I reckon there'll be a mini window from now till 30th.
Yeah, but the Euros doesn't finish till the 14th. Well, I'm saying nothing will happen. Nothing will happen with the teams that are still involved.
I know what you mean.
And hopefully they'll be the better players that are going to be involved. The caliber of players that I'm hoping we're going to sign.
There's still some good players not at the Euros. We just got to look for them, that's all.
All right.
Yeah.
And then you've got the what do you call it, the South American one in all of me?
I call that America.
Hey, did you watch Canada or Argentina the other night?
Yeah. Watch some of it, not all of it.
Game, by the way. Hey, Canada could have been 2-0 up at half time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And here's the thing: Lapierre or someone, the Canadian goalie. If we want a sweeper keeper, that's the kid we want. Because
he did well in that game.
Canada, they're coached by. Yeah.
Is he actually called Lapierre, or did you just try and think of a Canadian name there?
It's something like that. I'll find it. But no.
They've got that defenders, Moose, Mounty.
Mounty,
he's not wrong, though. The keeper was coming out like prime Beckenbauer on ice skates.
And of course, they are coached by Jesse Marsh, who at Leeds played his suicide high press, which is exactly what Canada were doing. But with this keeper at the back, it didn't make any difference. He was coming out nearly to the halfway line and picking up through balls from Argentina. It was amazing. You get a chance to watch it. Watch it. What do they call him again?
I'll tell you what. I thought for a while we should sign that Jonathan Maple syrup from Canada.
Maxime Crepeau. Maxime Crepeau.
Brilliant.
So,
I suppose you'd be wanting to sign Jonathan David from them as well, like Soccer Steve. He keeps telling me about Jonathan David, honestly.
I've been saying that.
I don't rate him. I really don't. As a goal scorer, I think he's a good forward. He's not a striker.
Yeah. Like I say, if he could have finished his dinner on whatever night it was, Thursday night, Argentina would have been done.
Did you watch the Peru-Chile game last night?
I did. I was going to say I fell asleep.
No,
I didn't fall asleep, but it put you to sleep. Like it wasn't very good.
It was.
Were they mimicking England by any chance? Were they?
What's that? Sorry, they were
mimicking England to send you to sleep.
Yeah, just on that, guys.
On England, I just hope that this is the slow burn before the firework explodes. You know, that's
absolutely.
I feel like Southgate's a dog that needs to put out his misery.
Keep our fingers.
The horse with a broken leg, just.
Well, he's had his options.
He's the manager.
Yeah, there's been a lot of critics out there, haven't there? So, at the end of the day, let's see what he does on the third and final game. And obviously, hopefully, if you want to watch us, me and Win will be on 8 o'clock on Tuesday. We're going to do the commentary, so that'll be a good one. I have got no other business. I don't know whether you guys want to chip in with anything that you've heard or Win, anything from you, mate, that you've heard today that you want to talk about before we go?
Come on, England.
You need to clip that back, Gary, when you said third and final game, because it could, well, not that it's likely to be, but it could be, because we're more likely going to get the third place even if we get beat.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it'd be interesting if it was.
Oh, it would. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people shouting Southgate out in the in the chat. Jamie, anything from you, matey? Anything you want to add to tonight's show before we say good night?
Anything happened to me today? I saw Nobby Solano going into Sainsbury's in Gosford. But that's
it's terrible.
That was fact. I mean, that is fact. I think half the stuff that we've read out tonight is rubbish, to be fair. But like I said, we are
that's my contribution to the Peru game.
Yeah. There's going to be lots of things coming our way. Andy, anything from you, mate, before we call it an evening?
No, mate, just thank you very much again for having us on, and hope everyone in the comments as well, and please hit the like for everyone. There's a lot of people on the show give up some important time, so please hit the like button.
Yeah, no problem, matey. Like I said, it's going to be a busy few days, few weeks to the end of the Euros, to the end of the window. I'm sure there's going to be loads more coming up. So if, I think that's it. I think we've done all the chats. Thank you ever so much for taking part into this evening's game. Sorry, Andy, do you want to shout something?
No, it's just agreeing with the comment below. I was just getting put in my place. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Missed the boat on that
one. One of my kids is walking around. Yeah.
You got lots of kids?
Sorry. I've got one of them's walking around somewhere and I don't know where they've gone. So.
Right. Got you.
There we are, right.
Absolutely. Well then, boys, the mighty Win in there. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Andy. And like I say, guys, don't forget that we've got shows on virtually every night across the board. Keep an eye out for any of the thumbnails coming your way. I think it's the 5 tomorrow, isn't it?
Mag's on 5 tomorrow.
Yeah, we've got the 5
Sunday
tomorrow,
report. I think we're called now.
It's the Sunday report. Yeah, so we're just going to go over all the news from what's happened in the week, plus a little bit of funny bits and pieces going on. So again, thanks ever so much for watching. If you, like I say, don't forget to hit the like button before you leave. That'd be grand. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And like I say, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks ever so much, guys. Speak soon.
Take care, everybody.